everyone, I'm Ari here with Rachel, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week we're on episode 277, and we're asking, do you need a time budget? Before we start, if you enjoy the show, consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free, as we have plenty of goodies for all. If you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get you access to more treats, or you can become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. For this, you get access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to monthly bonuses, all while supporting our podcast. If that's not your style, but you still enjoy our podcast, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you haven't already, and consider dropping us a like. Okay, so we budget our money, which is just a way of tracking what comes in and what goes out regarding expenses and income, or at least we all should be. It helps us kind of stay aware of upcoming charges and help us make better decisions regarding our financial situation. So what's a time budget? Technically, it's the same thing as any other budget. It's just you're using time rather than money. And I guarantee most people listening to this will be overestimating how much time they have to do things like writing, and B, how much time things take to complete, especially if you are a little bit neurodivergent and struggle with that, because we understand completely.
I think this is an interesting topic to discuss because having a time budget can work for anything, not just writing. Because, I mean, let's face it, one of the biggest excuses that I hear from any writer, and I'm guilty of it too, I'm still guilty of it, is that when we don't get any writing done, we just say, oh, I ran out of time today. I didn't have any time to get any writing done this week. And we always say that if you want to write that book, you have to carve out the time in your day, in your week, to actually get it written. So having that time budget can really help you kind of prioritize pretty much everything in your life so that you can fit that writing in. Whether you want to do it as a career or as a hobby, it still works the same.
Exactly. And I think we're all guilty of that thing where there's something on your to-do list that's been there forever because you've got this idea that it's going to take like 5 hours, and then you eventually like are forced to do it and it takes like 20 minutes. And you're like, wow, I've been procrastinating that forever. Because a lot of us have time blindness regarding how long things take. And it's been studied. I do not have the study because I'm not that prepared. There it is. But it's been prepared that we are really bad. A lot of people are really bad at estimating how long things take. And we either massively overestimate or massively underestimate. So how do you fix that if you want to do a time budget? You got to track your time for at least 2 weeks, maybe a month. And it's also a good idea to do it several times over the year because life changes. And if you have kids, or if you're a carer, or if you have certain types of jobs, it can change again regarding holidays, school runs, things like that. Everyone's year isn't exactly the same. Everyone's months aren't exactly the same. You know, you'll be more busy around Christmas time than maybe you are in the middle of May. That's why you should track it, and you should track it in different points throughout the year. I hate this sort of stuff. I appreciate this is my episode. I came up with it, but I hate tracking because I am terrible at it. I forget to write things down. But if you want to make an accurate time budget, it's the same with money. You have to know what is coming in and what is going out, exact amounts. And obviously, if you've got something like a job that gives you commissions or tips or anything like that, that's like you have to average it out. And you do that by knowing what you've earned and what your expenses are in a year's period. Same thing with time budgeting. So if you're one of those people that loves writing stuff down and time budgeting, brilliant. If you're not, then do try and force yourself to do it. Whether that is using a phone voice recorder, or just having some quick notepad that you can make a note of every time you're doing a task, especially a repetitive task, that can help. You know, like we do the podcast every week. And it varies depending on how many episodes we're recording or how long the episodes are. But on average, we have a vague idea of how much time it will take. It does sometimes go off that time if, equipment breaks or something happens, or there's twice as much editing because we don't have the script as well. But it gives you an idea. The same with other things. There'll be things you do. Maybe the chores you do in your house. Maybe you do the same chores every day and you have an idea 90% of the time that they'll take this long. If you do your time budget, you can prove that, and then you can mark off and say, okay, I do need 2 hours in the morning to do all the chores. That's a lot. Hopefully you don't need 2 hours in the morning to do all your chores. Who has that time? Seriously.
Well, I mean, that's part of it too, is you have to be flexible because, as you said earlier, there are going to be some tasks that you think will take you 15 minutes and it ends up taking you 35 minutes, or You put off a task that you think is going to take you 6 hours and it takes you 2 minutes. And you realize that you were just being dramatic and you were procrastinating and that's it. But I like the idea of tracking your time for 2 weeks. And I lately, instead of having a daily word count goal, I've been trying to write for a certain amount of time. And even if I don't get any like actual writing done, I still sit down for like 20, 30 minutes, whatever my goal is for that day, and just think about my novel or whatever project I'm currently working on. And it just kind of helps get you in that mindset of actually writing or doing whatever you're supposed to be doing during that block of time. And it's really interesting we're talking about this because the other day, my sister and I we were talking about how it supposedly takes roughly 2 weeks to build a habit. And I think if you track your time for 2 weeks, that will help you find the average. Because again, as I already said, life changes, things happen, holidays happen, and every week is different depending on what's going on in your life. So you might not be able to follow that time budget exactly week after week after week. But supposedly, if you do something for 2 weeks, you kind of create that habit. I don't 100% agree with that because while it may take 2 weeks to build a habit, it only takes one day to fall out of that habit. So this is essentially you just trying to build a routine around all the things that you have to do in your life, all the things you want to do in your life. And it's also just setting up a general schedule. If you have a basic idea of how long a specific task is going to take you, you can figure out where to fit it in your day. And I think one of the ways you could do this is at the start of every week, you can sit down and kind of create a schedule for yourself for the week and say, okay, I'll get this done on Monday because I have a little extra free time. And I'll get this done on Wednesday because I have the day off and I just added 6 hours to my day because I don't have work. And, you got to play around with it every week.
But that's it. It's important because we do overestimate and we do underestimate our time. And I think, especially as writers, it's so easy to say things like, "Oh, I don't have time to write," and it's like, well, it depends. Are you trying to find 3 hours block to write, or are you just trying to find any time to write? In which case, is 10 minutes enough? 20, 30? Okay, maybe your life is very fractured. I like to think of it as like needing a defrag on a computer, where all the spaces and you need to sort of like clear it out. That's why a time budget is really useful because having accurate assessment of your time and how long things take on average, you can then analyze that data, like Rachel said, and then you can figure out, right, where will that be? I'll also throw in a little extra. If you can, at the same time, track your energy levels, because some people have a shit ton of energy at the beginning of the day and they're like buzzing with energy, in which case that's the best time to do your high level tasks. Some people it slows down, some people it picks up. Matching your time budget with your energy budget can be really useful, but that might be a bit too much right now. So let's just stick with the stick with the time budget. Figuring out how long things take, where you're losing time, that's the other one, because you will be so surprised at how many little pockets of time you're losing, probably to things like scrolling on your phone or watching too much Netflix. That is my guilty pleasure. I will binge and binge, binge series. It's always just one more episode, and then suddenly I've watched the whole thing. By finding out where you are losing time, you can then fix it. And one of the things to do with that is by like grouping, like do you have several errands? Are you going out to the shops? Are you going out to appointments? Regular things on the side. Can they be grouped together? Have you noticed that you're not establishing boundaries? Are you answering the phone randomly and taking requests from family members all the time, even when it's not urgent? And a quick point about boundaries. I get it. If you struggle to put boundaries up, especially with family members or friends, it can be really hard. This is especially the case if you are the sort of person that everybody in the family relies on, where you're always the person they come to, whether you're the primary caregiver or just, the most organized and the most reliable. It can be hard to say no, it can be hard to put up boundaries. And you might think, well, it's just a phone call here, it's just an errand there. This is a perfect time to find out how often those boundaries are being pushed and how much time you're giving up to other people. And I am not saying stop giving time to people, be mean, say no to everybody. I'm never saying that, even if I want to. It just means maybe making sure that you have an equal amount of time given to you and your life and not just work, your actual personal life and your hobbies and things like that, as well as like family requirements and other things like that, and work events and nonsense things like that. So yeah, that's why I think time budgeting is good. It's not just a case of how long does it take to do the ironing, how long does it take to buy the groceries. It's everything. How many times are you answering the phone to a family member because they need something? How many times are you spending on the phone that you think you're only spending 20 minutes and it's been 4 hours? That's why a time budget is good, because I guarantee most of the people listening to this will be assuming they're using their time more wisely than they are. I might be wrong. Maybe you're all brilliant with your time and you don't have any issues at all, and it's just me and Rachel who have the problem. That could be it as well.
Now, I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones with this problem. We may be the only ones that be dramatic about it, but one thing I do want to note when it comes to your time budget every day, and I'm not saying every week or every month, I mean every single day, you need to factor in breaks. You think that we have, I don't know, say like 12 hours in a day if we're not including sleep, and just to keep the math as simple as possible. Say you have 12 hours in a day. You don't have 12 hours to fill. You're not trying to fill it with family time and friend get-togethers and work and chores and grocery shopping and errands and all that stuff. You want to fill that time. You probably want to fill, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 hours of that day with that stuff. And then the rest of that time should be breaks and downtime and you just having alone time if you need it, or you going out to dinner with friends or whatever like that. You can't just take a look at your writing, take a look at your chores and say it takes me this time, this long to do this and this long to do that, and then try to squeeze it all in one day. Because that's my issue. That's what I do. I add things to my to-do list and I look at the list and I'm like, oh, it's just 10 things. How long are they really going to take me? It's not that big of a deal. And then before I know it, I've gotten through like two, maybe three of them, and I've already been working for 7 hours. And then I get upset with myself that I wasn't productive enough. And then I feel guilty by the end of the day. And then I start getting overwhelmed. And then it carries on into the next day. And then before I know it, my entire week is in shambles and it's ruined. Don't do that. Don't be like me. Take the time that you have, because I think, that's something else. We all view time as this villain in our lives because we always claim that we don't have enough time to do anything, but it really isn't. We just don't work well with time. And that's something that we need to learn. We need to utilize time as a friend. If we're gonna, personify it, we got to utilize time as a friend and work with it and just take things day by day. And you can plan, and sometimes those plans may fall through, but you just kind of have to roll with it and do what works best for you. And listen to your body. When it needs a break, take a break. Because there will be times you'll budget out time to do a certain task. And as Ari said, gauge your energy levels. If you just can't do it, don't do it. Listen to your body and listen to your brain and just don't.
I think that's a really good point, especially with the idea of like the to-do list. It's so easy to go, well, I've only got 10 things on my list, not thinking, well, those 10 things are each going to take 5 hours each. You know, we just don't think it. We just think, well, I've only put 10, I've only put five things on. And obviously, you can do things like, I'm going to highlight the most important task today and just do one big task. But then if you do it really well, you think, well, I'll add 4 or 5 more tasks on. And then you sort of assume that every day is going to be like that. And yet, some days, the day where every time you pick something up, you drop it on the floor, you can't find your phone, you can't find your keys. Every time you try to sort something on the computer, it's not working, those sorts of days. So wiggle room is useful. Definitely don't pack your days in. As soon as you figured out what your main tasks are, especially recurring tasks, that's what you want to find. You want to find how long recurring tasks take, especially if it's roughly the same amount of time every day. That's good. But there will be days when everything is against you and it just won't work. So wiggle room around it is important, because obviously you've also got to think there's going to be bathroom breaks in there. There's going to be times when you just really need a cup of tea or coffee, or you go outside to sign for a parcel and the post person just keeps on gabbing at you and you can't get away, and suddenly you've lost 10 minutes.
Don't forget to shower.
So
I've forgotten that before.
oh yeah, showering as well, and exercise. These little things and that. So it's about finding the little slices of time that you can then put together, and then find those dead areas. Like if you're waiting in the supermarket in the queue, is there something you can be doing? Even if it's like a 2 minute mindfulness exercise or Kegel squeezes, I don't know. Or if you go to an appointment and you're always like having to sit there waiting at the appointment, don't scroll on your phone. Use that time for checking your emails. I mean, every time I go to the gym, like it sounds like I go a lot, I don't, but I go to a class and I always end up there 10 minutes early. And then the teacher's always about 5 or 10 minutes late. I never sit and do my emails, but I've been telling myself, right, get up, do your emails, just be on your phone, but only on emails. Don't scroll Instagram. That's not helpful. And all it does is it saves me time later, and it's just dead time otherwise. I get nothing out of scrolling from Instagram these days. Yeah, so what we're talking about is finding the average time things take, especially recurring tasks, whether you can group tasks together to make them easier. That's kind of like the time blocking concepts. Whether you're not establishing enough boundaries and whether you're losing bits of time because you're kind of on call for everybody. Obviously, I'm not saying if you're an actual carer, if you are a parent that needs to be around for your children, not saying ignore everybody, but if you're answering the phone to everybody or you're saying yes to everybody all the time and it's just eating at your time and your personal, eating at your time, that's something you might need to think about. And again, it's one of those things you don't always notice it until you've written it down, and then you start to look at the data and you're like, wow, I gave up like 5 hours a week to random phone call because people needed to talk. And again, we want to be supportive, but unless you're a paid therapist, you shouldn't be answering the phone all the time. And that sounds really mean. It totally sounds really mean. I get that, but I'm going to stick by that. Figure out the best way of recording your information, whether that's carrying a pad around with you, using your phone notes, or a recording device. I prefer the recording device because I get halfway through typing on my phone and I get bored. And I don't always have a pad and pen because I don't have any freaking pockets. So I like to use my voice recorder and then I put a calendar note saying check voice recorder. You need that. Make sure you have wiggle room. Make sure you're thinking about other things you need and, work your to-do list with that information. I think that's the best way. I have no idea how to end this. I've kind of just jumped it, so.
No, you are ending it pretty well. You kind of recapped everything we talked about in the episode, so go ahead, end it.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything else. It's like I think that's quite good. It's just one of those things I think it's a good idea for people to try. And again, it's not always easy. It's like any form of like journaling or time blocking. Not everyone is going to find it easy, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try it if just give it a try. But yeah, segue. Let's go to the end. You can tell my script notes ran out pretty bad. What am I saying? Before we leave, if you want to learn more about us, the podcast, opportunity to be a guest on the show, please don't forget to check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. Now we'll turn it over to you guys. Do you use a time budget? Have you ever done a time budget? Do you think you will do a time budget? Or are you just like, no, not a chance? Let us know your answers in the comments. We do like to chat about it. We always like to hear what people think. Remember, we release new episodes every Wednesday. Next week, we're discussing accountability buddies. Oh, say that 5 times fast. To ensure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button on your way out. And as always, thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you next week. This podcast is brought to you by Too Many Ideas, because writing is easier than editing. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.